Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Twigi iRacing series. It's race number 10, and the drivers are now racing on concrete for the Nashville Super Speedway 125 for race number 10. Thank you for joining us here on the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Robert Anderson, and running productions is going to be Matt Dyer tonight. The drivers are getting ready as we're closing in past halfway. The drivers are now in the clutch time. You've got to be running well if you want to make it into the playoffs, and this is certainly a race that can change it all, as the drivers are currently underway with qualifying here for the next 4 minutes, and it certainly should be a good one. Robert got to be covering most of this, some of these races in the past couple of weeks, but it's good to be back watching these drivers for the first time on concrete this season.
The concrete certainly does bring a couple interesting elements into the game. Concrete gives us a lot of grip, potential for a lot of speed, but you also got to be smart with how you play it. The concrete is not kind to the tires on these trucks. The trucks make a lot of downforce. It's so inviting to go fast. But the wise racer is going to win tonight with this very punishing and demanding surface.
This surface certainly is going to be something for us to be watching out for. The drivers in total going to be have 5 extra sets in pit road, 1 fast repair for 94 laps here tonight. We have got our usual drivers to watch out for. Merrick Watchhorn, the most winless driver of the season, trying to go for win number 5 of the season for himself, as well as plenty of other drivers for us to get to. But before we get to more racing action, we've got ourselves our invocation this evening from that of Nicholas Monticelli. We will be stepping aside, letting the invocation go, and we'll be back getting ready for racing action here tonight.
Lord, tonight I want to thank you for the beautiful machines of the Twigi iRacing series. All the Toyotas, Chevys, Fords of this beautiful truck series. And God bless, am I ready to see them on track. I want to thank my smoking hot wife, Rias Grammary. And I want to thank Jesus. May we race in his name. Boogity, 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 boys. Let's go racing.
Thank you again to Nicholas for giving us that invocation as the drivers are in their final minute in 45 seconds of qualifying. Robert, this season, like I noted on, only a couple of races we broadcasted, but this is going to be race number 10 of the season. And this field certainly now starting to feel that pressure as we are getting ready to go racing here in just about a minute and a half. What are some aspects that you're expecting for these drivers that could be the winning factor to win here tonight?
Winning factor, this league has shown a lot of potential to have a lot of long green runs. These guys are pretty clean. They respect each other's pace. They respect the delta, but at the same time, they really do keep each other honest. For instance, last week at Indianapolis, we saw execution was the deciding factor. The fastest car did not win that race. The driver who kept everything together and executed on pit road is who ended up out front. So execution is going to be a big point, but also keeping the strategy in mind and being the driver that has the tires on the truck when it matters. It doesn't do to burn up your tires running down the leader and then you've got none of the truck left to pass them with. So it's really a wise racer's race tonight. It's not an outright pace track.
Yeah, with it being 94 laps for these drivers, only that of a 1.33-mile course. Certainly, patience is going to be the key. And also, like we've been talking about, and is going to be the talking point, I think, for the rest of the season, tires for sure. Talked about last week, that being Sam Broach, who found himself into victory lane as that American Watchhorn had his issues in pit road. As we are getting ready to go racing here just shortly, this gives us a brief moment. Let's take a look at how the point standings is looking for these drivers. As for a lot of them, it has been a struggle to make sure that yourself is trying to keep yourself patient, but it's been consistency for Patrick Hernandez. It's on top of the points leaderboard for himself, but only by 1 point over Merrick Watchhorn, and then Ryan Mitchell going to be in that third place position. You look at the rest of the field, there's a lot of points to be grabbed as this is your top 10 drivers. Certainly some are going to be missing out today. Eighth place runner not going to be here, as well as last week's winner, Sam Brochu, not going to be showing up as he is not going to be at his station. He's on vacation. Plenty of other drivers getting ready and set to go. And speaking of getting ready and set to go, the drivers are as well. It's time to take a look at your starting grid as the drivers are getting lined up and ready to go. Up front, it's going to be that of the 24 of Ryan Mitchell, as well as the 29 of that of Elliott Drummond, going to be to his outside. Ryan Hyatt's going to be in third place with that of Merrick Watchhorn, the driver that's trying to get by Patrick Hernandez and for that points lead, going to be starting in fourth. Then we've got Jacob Elkin, who's going to be in fifth place with the driver that gave us our invocation, Nicholas Monticelli, going to be in that sixth place position. Seventh, going to be our points leader, Patrick Hernandez, Mr. Consistent. Got to find a little bit of extra speed here tonight, as he is going to be having a 31 of that of Waylon Vining to his outside. Then Randy, that of the 66 of Randy Bonini, going to be in that ninth place position, as well as Jody, that of Joey Hickok, going to be in that of 10th. 11th, going to be Ash Ridge, as well as going to be seeing that of Calhoun and Carroll, finishing out your top 13 drivers. 13 officially making it. This is actually our biggest field of the season. And Robert, as we're about to go green, what are you expecting in these first couple of laps?
I'm expecting a lot of side-by-side craziness because I'm just now looking at the fastest laps logged in practice. You can throw a half a second off over our top 12 qualifiers.
Well,
I
it's
think we're
certainly
going to see a very tight competition to see who wants that clean air out front.
It should be a good one. These drivers testing out the new restart zone, and it's going to be that of Ryan Mitchell getting on the lot pedal quickly for the 24 as we go racing down into turn number one. The Nashville Super Speedway 125 is green, and it's all about getting in line quickly. But on the outer lane, here comes that of Elliott Drummond, who's going to be trying to make the charge for himself, but first falling back, moving up one position. Merrick Watchhorn, he's not waiting for anybody else. He already is trying to move up to that lead position. As side by side for our leaders out at turn number 4, it's Drummond trying to take that first lead lap lead, and it looks like he'll get it done for the 29.
Yeah, those leaders are staying side by side. The rest of the field trying to sort it out. But we see here the number 9 has some great momentum on the outside, but they can't do this for long. We mentioned it in the pre-race. Concrete's punishing. The car trapped on the inside has to eat a lot of his tires to hold that speed. As you see here, the 19 relinquishes that position.
He'll hold it for now, but this 29 certainly going to be stricken for anything on that outer lane. But watching these drivers, Merrick Watchhorn just in a waiting period. He cannot go high, low. It's more of see who's going to make the move and then go for it, as it's still going to be Drummond on that outer lane. Finally gets a good run. He's clear for now, and finally dropping in front of the 24 as Ryan Mitchell just lingers and waits. And here's that patience game here, Robert. They're finally single filed up.
And if I'm Merrick Watchhorn, I'm a little disappointed that they got single file so quickly. If I'm Merrick Watchhorn, I wanted to see those two ahead of me stay side by side. Use empty tires. I'll just sit there and win.
I mean, at this point, though, I mean, he has to be feeling comfortable as we're riding on board with that 91 machine. Merrick Watchhorn again started in fourth, moved up one position by that of Ryan Hyatt. And here we go, talk about side by side. Well, they're attacking once again, and that outer lane's looking good, Robert, here in the early going.
And I think it really will. I think that outer lane becomes more and more viable the more and more rubber the truck takes. But with the dynamic tracks the way they are, it's going to depend on where they run. If everyone hugs the bottom lane's just going to get super dominant. But if that 24 truck stays up top and rubbers that groove in, it could be a top lane we see.
Yeah, you're seeing that side by side for third place. The 24 of Ryan Mitchell, as well as Ryan, that of Hyatt, could be side by side, trying to figure out how they're going to get dicey here. 24 losing ground, and for Ryan Mitchell, our pole sitter, more contact going to be made with the 20, with that of the 75. Hyatt got to be feeling frustrated with that bump.
He sure will. It's interesting. With the fixed setup of these little runs, I've run it myself personally. It's very, very racy. It's not a scary setup. It inspires a lot of confidence. and the driver to stay side by side. As we see, they're still side by side
Oh,
for position
boy.
3.
Oh. More contact, more spills, and that of the 75 goes around. Hyatt struggling, going through the grass after being spun around off the 24's bumper, almost also collecting the 9 of that of Jacob, that of, gonna see that of the 9 machine, luckily surviving, but I'm surprised, no yellow, thought there could have been, but because the spill was off the racing surface, we stay green, as we're now gonna be finding these drivers up front. Drummond, Watchhorn, they got a good show in their mirror as they are now going to be over a second, almost 2 seconds over third place now.
That's quite the gap to see. And these two out front, you're probably going to see some experience kick in. They're probably not going to go to war with each other just yet. We've got a lot of racing left to go. We're still learning about the truck. The track is still quite hot. Our track temperature is still sitting at 104 degrees. There's no reason to be crazy yet, so I think we're at the point now where we're going to see some fuel strategy starting to develop. Who's going for undercuts, who's going for overcuts.
As we're watching the battling going on, Patrick Hernandez, who needed to gain positions, has done so greatly for the 19, especially with the spill that we saw from that of Ryan Mitchell and Ryan Hyatt. Now going to be up to that of 4th place and picking and choosing, as he's going to have the blinking 27 of Nicholas. Going to be hoping that he doesn't get any more blinking for the 27 machine. We hope for that to get fixed up, but certainly a factor that these drivers have been notified. We'll get a warning if you blink any more than that, could get penalized if it continues to move forward. But looking at the field right now, there, Robert, any drivers are sticking out on speed in the middle of this field that could be a shocker or could be figuring their way moving forward.
Well, he's a little bit towards the pointy end right now, but it's worth pointing out that currently Patrick Hernandez is turning some pretty decent laps. His last lap is a 31 flat, which puts him just a 10th off of the leaders. Now, he's still got a few cars to look at. He's got some guys to work through, but I really think he's going to be a factor as we get closer, as we eat up into this race. I also want to point out that the number 24, remember how easy I mentioned it would be to run off the tires? Look how far off the pace that truck is falling.
Yeah, after the contact between that of Ryan Mitchell and Hyatt, he certainly fell off. Getting on the brakes, letting Hyatt go on by, and then making his move forward. Has gotten by at least one driver, but the battle for the lead, that is where we have to keep our eyes on. As you see the gap, it's now less than a 10th. It is all on Merrick Watchhorn after the woes last week at Indy, where he threw away the race, looking like the fastest truck out there. Now, with not the best qualifying for himself, qualified 4th, he's had to make 2 passes, and he's got one more, and here he comes to the inside. Merrick Watchhorn going for the lead into turn number 3, and that 91's looking strong for now, but that outside lane you talked about it, Robert, the rubber just too strong.
It is that momentum that the outside lane can carry, especially off of turn 4, down this big curve straightaway. Here we come, up to nearly 170 miles an hour before they have to hit the brakes for turn 1. The outside lane, it's so hard to defeat that momentum. And the longer Merrick sits there and tries, the more damage he does to that right front tire. So Merrick's got to really pick these battles. That was a legitimate try he made on the last lap. I'm interested to see if Merrick's going to try and build up some momentum on the high side and try to that move the other way.
Still have to wait, try to reset, get that rhythm back. 29 of that of Elliott Drummond leads for now as we're on the start of lap 15 for the drivers. 1 laps to go here this evening as we continue to watch the battle for the lead. A couple of other drivers have been trying to get on top of one another in the middle of half of the field. But right now, biggest mover going to be the 66. A little bit of a bad omen in 6th place. That's going to be Randy and that of the 66 machine up 3 positions. One of our biggest movers of the night, also tied with Patrick Hernandez in 4th.
Pointing out that on that last lap, 24 Ryan Mitchell was one of our fastest vehicles on the track. He might still have something despite the damage to that truck.
It's going to be a big thing for him to watch out for as well. They're going to be 3 wide back here battling for that at 10th place. You know, slightly aggressive, but that of Ryan Hyatt, he's had a great recovery for himself in the 75 as he'll be side by side with the 24, trying to dig as much as possible here. Not able to make the pass and will finally clear it on the front stretch, but as I say that, I'm proving wrong.
Momentum. there's that momentum on the high side. Ryan Hyatt is having his job made difficult. See, now there, Ryan Mitchell's probably going to concede the position.
And for that of Mitchell.
But is he? He
mean,
has a little bit of a run on the backstretch.
He's going to try, go back and forth. That's what the goal is here. Just continue to fight it as Mitchell continues to just linger in front. Also get to see that of Shane, Calhoun in 17. Not having a number on that blue and white machine, but still running well in 10th place. A couple of drivers here having their first runs of the season. That of Calhoun, also seeing that of Ridge in front of these drivers, and as well, a couple of others having their first start of the season. It's good to see some of these drivers coming in, building up this league and it growing. Even though we're past halfway, this is usually around the time where we start to see leagues fall off. They're doing a great job trying to build up each and every week.
And it's nice to see a league with quality racecraft and quality management start to grow and start to get its name developed on iRacing. League racing offers a very unique experience to race on a weekly or even bi-weekly basis with a field of guys that you're familiar with. You know this gentleman's racecraft. You know about what he's going to do. You know the kind of strategies he's pulled before. So it inspires you as a racer to, I can race him hard. I know him. I trust him. That's the wonderful thing that we get in some of these leagues. That's what honestly makes them so entertaining to watch.
Each and every week, it's so great to see. I mean, every day there is a different league, different cars that can be ran, and that's what we're seeing right now are some of the best that can get out here in this league. And right now, some great battling. This is back for that of going to be for 11th place. Further back in the field, but this is going to be our pole sitter, Ryan Mitchell, after contact between himself and Ryan Hyatt. Placed himself back further in the field, racing with newcomer, that of Shane Calhoun. And this 17 blue and white continues to just fight back. And as they continue to fight, certainly it is looking like they've got him going to be in trouble if we continue to stay green. We're on lap 20 for these drivers, 75 laps to go. But here comes the question here, Robert, of when do these drivers think about making their pit stop, or technically their first pit stop of the night?
Well, I think the limitation here, shortly this league runs a slightly shortened fuel fill, but I think the other limitation here is going to be tires. There is a lot of fall off here, but it's not a ton. At a big track like Michigan, we see almost 2 seconds of fall off on the lap. Here at Nashville Superspeedway, we only see about 1.4 seconds. Now, if let's say I'm Merrick Watchhorn, if I don't think I can beat Elliott Drummond on pace, then maybe I do try and undercut him and see if I can't get fresher tires out on the track sooner and maybe try and leapfrog him on a green flag pit cycle. But being the first guy to pit's always risky. A yellow flag traps you a lap down, and Merrick Watchhorn can't afford that because Patrick Hernandez in P4 is probably going to play it safe. He's got the points lead. He has nothing to prove. He just needs a solid points night. So Merrick Watchhorn has got to be aggressive, but he doesn't want to trap himself.
One of these drivers has to try something risky, though, as we ride on board with that of Elliott Drummond and get a great shot off of the tail end of this 29 game to see that of Merrick Watchhorn just slowly chipping away. Some laps closing it in less than a tenth, other laps being back to 2 tenths or more from our leader, but he's keeping the gap close. Front two truly have been looking like the top of the class. Rest of the field, they have fallen off greatly. Some by contact, others just by pace being off. And for these drivers here tonight, Robert, I mean, for some, up front, it just looks like it's smooth and steady. What do you think the issue for some of these other drivers on why they're struggling so much here? They're 24 laps in.
24 laps in, if they've been, and it's so easy to do here at Nashville. You charge the entry too hard, the right front gets a little unhappy. And again, with it being a fixed setup race, there's not a whole lot you can do about it on a pit stop. So you've really got to, with these fixed setup style races, you've got to put in a bunch of practice ahead of time. I mean, several times the race distance, several fuel runs. Figure out how hard can I run to have the truck's balance be a certain way at a certain point in the run. And it honestly comes down to preparedness, which in my opinion is part of that execution that we mentioned. The drivers that know what changes the truck is going to go through. How's the balance of the truck going to change as the fuel burns off? It's probably going to get looser, but as the right front burns off, it's probably going to get tighter. And what does that balance feel like? How much overall pace does it cost? Those are the drivers that we're going to be seeing in the top 5.
That's what we're seeing right now. Just the consistency. Merrick Watchorn, he's already gotten to victory lane multiple times here this season, and he's trying to go for win number 5 for himself. Elliott Drummond, though, this is going to be his 4th race of the season. And for Drummond, best finish so far was a 2nd place finish back at Charlotte. And then he's been looking strong with a 3rd place finish at Gateway, 6th place finish at Kansas, and an 8th place finish as well. Going to be at the All-Star race. So we've seen some strong runs from this 29 throughout the season. He's going to be trying to go for his 1st win of the season. But right now, we're seeing on screen, struggling is going to be that 29, but also drivers further back for that 39, 66. These drivers are having issues battling back for a 9th and 8th place. They've been bouncing off of one another further back in the field. And we almost had a yellow strike for the battling that was going on for 6th place.
Sam, on the running 10-lap average, that is over the last 10 laps that both of these drivers have turned, there's only 14 thousandths of a second to separate our top 2. That's how close these are. In fact, on their last lap, they were within 600ths of a second of each other. They are what we like to call level pegging. The gap's not really moving. They're just trading laps and laps and laps. They're each trying to field the other out. Elliott Drummond wants to maintain that lead, wants to maintain that clean air, but he only wants to use as much of his truck as he has to do so to do that. Merrick Watchorn wants to make a move and wants to get by him, but he doesn't want to put the truck in a compromised position. It's a little bit of a chess match at the front of the field. It might not look like a lot's going on to the viewers at home, but what's going on here is 2 drivers trying to get in each other's heads and figure out what the other's doing.
And, you know, if anything, you call a little bit of deja vu from last week. I mean, you saw Sam as well as Merrick both racing very hard against one another, and it was the pit stop that changed the whole entire dynamic of that race last week at Indianapolis. Will it be pit stops again being the changing factor as drivers are starting to fall backwards? That of the 9, Elliott, that of Jacob Elkin's going to be one of the drivers that actually was up battling for 3rd place. He's now dropped back to 5th where he qualified, but moving forward, going to be the 27, doing a great job for himself. Nicholas and some other drivers battling back for the 24 of Ryan Mitchell's. He is doing his darndest to try to carve his way through the field as driver into pit road. First driver, it's Merrick Watchorn in the 91.
And that's a bold strategy. I mentioned Merrick might try to go for the undercut, and there it is. Right before that happened, something that I thought was interesting, he was currently in 3rd at the time. The number 19 of Patrick Hernandez turned the exact same lap time as Elliott Drummond. So Patrick Hernandez has held on to his tires, but he's 5 seconds back. He's got to make up that gap somehow. Now, solid execution on and off pit road in this pit cycle can do that for him, but he's got to do it right.
And now it's going to be Patrick Hernandez into pit road, the next driver for the 19, as well as going to be that of Hickox, who's going to be coming into pit road. A giant cluster of drivers following suit with Patrick Hernandez this lap. Practically everyone from 7th on back all just came into pit road under this last go. A couple of these drivers I'm expecting to use a fast repair, as a couple of drivers just got banged up with one another, and Hickok's going to be one of those drivers using his one and only fast repair. That safety net is now going to be gone for the 3, as a couple of other drivers thinking about using their fast repair as well.
And they certainly will be. Nashville's, unlike Bristol or Martinsville, where we can afford to have a few banged up fenders, Nashville's very fast. I mean, it is only 1 1/3 miles, but we're still doing 170 into these corners. You got to have the arrow on the truck right, as it looks like Elliott is going to make a nice aggressive pit entry, but he is going to get there.
Like we stated last week and saw, mistakes under green flag pit stops can be costly. Don't want to get speeding into pit road, and you don't want to make a mistake getting into your box, going from that concrete to asphalt and then back onto concrete onto these pit boxes. As here comes that 29, our leader, smooth in perfectly into his box. And I'll give a couple of drivers updates, as it's going to be Hickok, Ryan Mitchell's, as well as that of going to be the 66 of Randy Bonamy going to be using their faster repairs. Those 3 drivers all using them up. Now the question is, how cleanly is everything going to go, as going to be taking the lead potentially Merrick Watchorn as he gets by the 29.
He got by, and that's the distance. Let's see. I want to see what the gap is when Elliott Drummond gets up to speed. It looks like it's going to shake out to about 2.5, maybe 3 seconds. That's 3 seconds on pit road. Let's remember, Merrick Watchorn was about 2/10 behind when Elliott Drummond peeled off, and when Elliott Drummond blends back in, he's 2.5 back. That's nearly 3 seconds Merrick Watchorn found on pit road. Clearly, he is not willing to repeat last week.
And as well, going to be 3 laps of clean driving from the 91, as that's going to be the difference on tires between the 91 and the 29 for these drivers. Still waiting for the 27 of Nicholas, of going to be seeing that of Moncelli, going to be trying to figure out when he'll come into pit road, as he'll probably be trying to stay out until about halfway. If you're waiting this long, you're going to be taking it all the way until it's empty. And looking at these drivers, I mean, Robert, how long can these drivers go if they really feel like they need to push it as far as they can?
You might be able to go the distance from here. At 1 1/3 mile track, 58 laps isn't out of the question. It's definitely going to be tight, and we're going to see if Merrick Watchorn was perhaps a little too aggressive with his undercut. Did he come a lap too early? Now he's out in clean air. He's no longer in Elliott Drummond's draft, so he's having to punch the air by himself. Fuel mileage is now going to be a topic.
And just over the radio, 27 making the indication he will be coming into pit road, which should be giving the lead to Merrick Watchorn. Elliott Drummond, who led the majority of the first 35 laps of this race, well, he's back to 3rd, should be 2nd place once the 27 comes in. Now, for that of the 27, I'm curious on what fresh tires are going to help him and how far he's able to move up, and will there be any more net gain for himself. Hard into the entry of this pit stop is going to be the 20 as Nicholas gets into pit road, gets rolling, and looks like that's a clean entry. And all the drivers that had already come into pit road before the 27, no one caught with pit road issues penalty-wise. Were a couple of drivers that were slow. Calhoun back in 12th was a slow driver, but now the race is on. Will Drummond be able to catch up to that of Merrick Watchorn as the 91 takes the lead down?
It's worth pointing out on that last lap, he was in fact 2/10 faster than Merrick. So I believe Drummond knows that the fight's on, and he's coming. Those 2/10, you'll notice the gap is now down to 2.25 seconds. So Drummond is definitely on the attack, and there's nothing else between him and Merrick.
And I'm curious also, Robert, on the fact that these drivers, with the fact that Drummond waited an extra 3 laps before coming into pit road, yes, he gave up time and allowed Merrick with those fresher tires to really pull away. But for Elliott Drummond, was he potentially too aggressive on those first 3 laps on realizing I got fresher tires, I'm going to get the going and try to catch up to Watchorn immediately? Is that a potential that's the reason why he's not gaining as much as he was in those first 3 laps?
There's always that potential. It's very easy to be too aggressive with the tires, and with iRacing doing the awesome work that they've done with this tire model, especially in the last year worth of updates they've made to it, it's very true to life in that what you do to the tire in the first 5 laps of a run will greatly influence what that tire does for you in the last 30 laps of the run. These tires really don't tolerate a lot of abuse when they're cold. They really will give up a lot of performance once they get hot, if you do that to them.
Let's keep my eye out on some of these drivers as
Elliott Drummond has shrunk the gap to under 2 seconds. We are now 1.9 seconds behind Merrick.
Yeah, and I was looking at it. Ash Ridge was extremely slow and low out of the way. Might have blown an engine for the 37. As Merrick Watchorn had to evade the 37. That's what I think what costed some time and allowed Drummond to really catch up just by a 10th and get underneath that 2-second gap. But I'm curious for the 37. He's coming down very slowly. Does have a fast repair. Is a 37 machine, but that's if they can get up to pit road. Still just pacing at that of the slowest that they can go. Will get to their box, and luckily that fast repair will be kicked in. But 2 laps down is going to be Ash Ridge. 1 lap down, going to be that of Shane Calhoun and also that of Brendan Carroll, both going to be 1 lap down. We've got 10 drivers on the lead lap, and this is the best battle on track. It's the battle for 5th place, that of Mitchell and Hickox.
I wouldn't be I would find it a little surprising if we had a blown engine, unless it was due to a missed shift on a pit road entry. I mean, that can certainly do it. But they're running 65% on the tape for this fixed setup, and our ambient temperature, I believe, is only 79. Yes, 78 degrees. It would almost take a mistake on the driver's part at some point to blow one of these engines, but it wouldn't be out of the question.
Well, also another thing is, would these drivers think about it? If they were pushing it as hard as they could, would they think about downshifting at all on this track with how slow they get in this middle of the corner, especially longer into a run? Could that be one of the reasons why we could see Ridges potentially think about downshifting, or it could be just him making a blatant mistake at that point? But I think that's the only reason that we could see the 37 have a reason to downshift.
It might be feasible, but I think you'd run into a Pocono situation if you attempted downshifting at this track. I mean, what am I really gaining? Am I really gaining any speed versus the increased fuel that I burn when I downshift? Also, every time that gear shifter moves is an opportunity for a mistake, and it would be really unfortunate if an attempt at downshifting is what it cost that engine.
We will wait and see if we can get any reports on that later on. But for now, the 37 going to be back in 13th place, 3 laps down, but back out on track as we keep our eyes out on the battling for 5th place, that of Ryan Mitchell. Great job after contact between himself and the 75 of that of Ryan Hyatt. They both fell back to 12th and 13th position, and now they have climbed their way up. Mitchell up to 5th, that of going to be seeing Hyatt up to 8th. As we take a look here at the battling for 9th position, going to be seeing that of Vining as well as that of Bonomi, going to be on top of one another, the 66 and the 31. Really haven't talked about that of Vining at all here tonight. We have talked about Bonomi be one of our biggest movers. Well, he's down 1 position from where he qualified, and that of Vining, he's got to figure out a way to hold off this 66.
And both of these gentlemen need to consider the fact that the leader is only 6 seconds behind. So, although their race is for position, neither of them really want to go a lap down. So they probably don't want to get caught up racing each other just quite too much, or you'll find yourself off the lead lap and out of the race.
I might be saying that, and I think that's the joy of us being up in the booth, so we can make these, judgment calls from high above, but the drivers in their cockpits, I mean, it's so difficult to really make that, change up of, okay, the leader's coming, let's not throw it away. But yeah, I mean, it is bump drafting into the corner and trying to set up Vining as he's trying to pressure the 66 to make an issue, but not able to get that mistake just yet. Or there it is, a little bit of shimmy at turn 4.
And it is, some people might call it dirty, but it is a viable strategy at Nashville Superspeedway to get right on the bumper of that truck ahead going into turn 3 and see if you can't just not hit him, but shove him into that corner maybe 5 miles an hour faster than he wants to go. That's enough to make it miss his apex and give you an opportunity for an overtake.
You got to do everything you have to go for each position if you want an opportunity to gain every spot possible. But a driver that feels comfortable for now, but we are now 45 laps to go. We're past halfway, and it is all now Elliott Drummond, who was over 3 seconds back. He's now less than a half a second away from that of Merrick Watchorn. Watchorn is losing all of that gap, and I think credit has to be given to Drummond. He's been patient. It has worked out. I thought maybe he burned off those tires too soon, Robert, but maybe he was playing a little bit of a possum and letting those tires come in.
Exactly. He was probably being very gentle to him. He realized, I pushed hard those first 3 laps. Probably time to take it easy. On the last lap, Elliott Drummond turned a 31.2, Merrick Watchorn with a 31.5. That's a very significant delta from Watchorn to try to hold off. And I just don't think he can.
No, he's just getting bigger and bigger.
Is inevitable.
As we ride on board with that of Elliott Drummond and get a sense of what it's like here for the drivers. Started up front, got that 2nd position. He took the lead over that of Ryan Mitchell, led the first 35 laps, had to go off sequence, extended his time on the track by 3 laps more than everyone else, took the advantage on tires, and now he's there right on the back bumper of Merrick Watchorn. And for Watchorn, he saw last week go away because of pit road mistake of him trying to get into his box. Robert, here tonight, it could have been the fact that he just pitted too soon.
And they are side by side into 3 and 4. It's going to be really tight. Watchorn tries to hold him low, but Drummond, I don't think, will be denied. Drummond maintains a good run off the exit. They're going to be side by side. Drummond will have the preferred lane into turn 1.
He's going to be in the preferred lane, but the extra grip from the 29, he's got to make this pass quick, or maybe rustle some feathers, use those elbows, and maybe give a little bit of a knock to Merrick Watchorn. Looks like he'll reset, get back in line with that 91, and this was kind of the issue for Merrick Watchorn. Was not able to truly go for the pass when we were under green flag racing in that first stint. We needed to have the change up of the green flag pit stops for the 91 to take the lead, and that fresh air kind of could be the factor on why this 29 can't get by, even though he's got the slightly fresher tires.
It certainly could be. I mean, a lot of people underestimate dirty air, especially in these trucks. They're kind of a brick. They punch a very big hole in the air, but the truck with that big front splitter, big greenhouse, and a significant amount of side force, aero is very important, and right now the 29 does not have that help. He's back there in filthy air. He's having to lean on his front tires a lot because the front splitter can't really help him as long as he's in that 91's wake.
Merrick Watchorn feeling strong, feeling comfortable at the moment, as that of Elliott Drummond sitting in second place, just waiting for a chance to pounce. And if anything, try to pressure Watchorn to make a mistake. Going to be right at that quarter panel. Watch out. Here comes the contact into turn number 3. Not close enough. Not feeling like he put enough pressure. And now Drummond's going to have to reset, try again here on the exit of turn 4 into turn 1. Here comes the run. A little bit of a lazy block from Watchorn toward the quarter panel. Here comes Elliott Drummond into turn number 1, side by side through 1 and 2. And the 29 not completely clear. He's got to get the nose up. He does. And here comes potentially the crossover move. A little bit of contact. Watchorn gets to the outside, but he's not completely side by side. Here comes Elliott. He's going to completely clear, and he's gone for the 29 for now. But here comes that run on the front stretch.
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see Merrick Watchorn let a little bit of a gap develop, see if he can't cool those tires off and start to eat back at that gap. That was a very long and protracted battle. Both of these guys have just put a lot of temperature into their rubber. What I think is going to happen, if I had to make a guess, I don't like to guess, but I think we just saw the pass that's going to decide how this stint shakes out.
I think you might be right on that. I think if anything, if Elliott Drummond can somehow get up to a second or more, he's got to be feeling comfortable with the way that this 29's been running, especially now that he's in clean air. Doesn't have to worry about that aero wash from Watchorn anymore, and it's going to be Merrick Watchorn just having to see the 29 pull away. The gap now over a half a second. Going to be that of seeing about 7 truck lengths the difference between our leader to second place. And luckily for Merrick Watchorn, he's got himself 11.5 seconds. The
But
gap
Drummond
between
gets the
himself
wall coming
as
off
well
his
as that of
floor.
Hernandez. And he hit brushed the wall, yes, but right now I think he's still good.
He is. I didn't see any significant damage. The killer will be that right front. As long as the right front on that truck stays healthy, that's okay if the right rear gets scratched up a little bit. And it appears that we've got a little bit of hood damage on the 29, but nothing that I think is going to be too detrimental.
And a little bit of update for drivers further back coming in for that of a splash and go. Going to be that of Calhoun in the 17. Now going to be 2 laps down for himself. Exiting pit road is the 17. A little shocker to see Calhoun have to come to pit road as it's an unscheduled stop for himself. But now we have to keep our eyes back onto the laps left in this race. A couple of other drivers into pit road. We talked about the potential of maybe they weren't good on fuel, and now into pit road is going to be that of Joey Hickox as well as Ryan Mitchell. And going to have to recheck and see if maybe there was some contact, because there's a lot of brushing on the 3 side, on that left side of himself. I think he might have gotten placed into the wall with himself and the 75.
You mentioned fuel. We're going to potentially see some fuel mileage gains up at the front. You got to remember, these two cars up front were the first two to pit. If the rest of the field is short on fuel, these guys have to be. Because they've been running faster laps, more time in the throttle, more time battling. If there were some trucks further back in the field that were short on fuel, this front pair almost has to be.
I was trying to do some calculations on what I thought we were going to see on fuel mileage. I was expecting anywhere from 45 to 50 was going to be the range in my eyes for fuel. We're now inside of that range, and they pitted a little bit sooner than that. It was going to be about 58 to 59 laps that our leaders were going to have to stretch it. And now everyone else coming into pit road. Here comes Patrick Hernandez, that of Ryan Hyatt, all coming in. We now wait for that of our top four. Going to be that of Elliott Drummond, Merrick Watchhorn, Jacob Elkins, as well as that of Nicholas. That Monticelli going to be one of those drivers to watch out for. Coming into pit roads, got to be the 10 here shortly as well of that of Brendan Carroll back in 7th, who's 1 lap down. As here comes Elkins into pit road for the 9 machine. And Robert, I think it's that game of chicken for our leaders. You come in, do you take 4 tires or do you take just 2? What strategies do you want to go for, if any strategies?
Well, it's a concrete track, so 2-tire stop is probably not the move. The one with all the pressure on him is that leader, that number 29 of Elliott Drummond. He's going to dictate what Merrick Watchhorn does. Merrick Watchhorn has slightly older tires, and he's used them battling Elliott. If Elliott comes for a stop and go, I think we're going to... Oh, and Watchhorn's going to undercut him. Watchhorn comes to pit road. Watchhorn trying to go for the upset.
And here's the thing for Elliott. It took him about 25 laps once he came into pit road to catch up and then make the pass on Merrick Watchhorn, and that was after giving up 3 laps of being out there on track longer than Watchhorn. So Elliott's got to be careful. If he stays out there for that of 4 laps or more, he is going to be in trouble to make this pass and catch up to Watchhorn. But Watchhorn also got to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes here. And now Elliott into pit road. He doesn't wait any longer than he did in that first stint.
No, I think he learned from that first stint. Now, what we're going to see happen, what's going to matter here, is we saw Watchhorn make up 2.5 seconds on a green flag pit road cycle at the end of our first stint. Does Drummond learn from some of... Did Drummond give up some time there? Has he learned from that mistake? Does Drummond execute better this time around? I can't wait to see where this 29 blends out.
Now, here is also a very interesting thing, because looking at the drivers right now, Nicholas Monticini, he came into pit road the latest out of everyone else, and he stayed out for an extra about 5 or 6 more laps. He's going to be in that range where he's going to have to figure out how to save about 6 laps of fuel if he wants to make it to the end of this race. And that 27... he's in a precarious spot. Most likely this isn't going to work, but he is one of the drivers that could try to go with fuel strategy and stay out there for the rest of this race.
He potentially could. 6 laps is a big ask. But if he knew that at the beginning of the stint and committed to the fuel save at the beginning of the stint, there is the possibility to save those 6 laps. But the question is, how much track position do you give up in the pursuit? And Merrick Watchhorn cycled out ahead of Elliott Drummond on that pit cycle.
That he did, and it's a little bit of a smaller gap now, only 1.8 seconds. And right now, watching as it could grow, shrink, Elliott Drummond, again, only a 1 lap differential between the 91 and the 29. Also looking at the pit stops, advantage of the whole tire in the lane and out of your box goes to that of Merrick Watchhorn, a little bit faster of the whole entire pit box cycle for himself. So the 91, that's where he gained that extra time. But for that of Nicholas in the 27, I talked about the potential chance of him trying to stay out. Well, the gap only 20 seconds from first to second. And even if you're trying to save fuel for each and every lap to make it to the end, the pace is so strong for the 91. He's going to catch up to this 27 here in just about that of 15 to 20 laps.
Which puts us still, 20 laps still puts us 4 laps shy of the end. I mean, Merrick's got plenty of time. What Merrick needs to do is manage his pace and keep that 29 behind him. And Elliott Drummond knows he's only got 24 laps to close a 1.5-second gap and get a pass done on a guy who this time around he does not have a tire advantage over. The pressure's on Elliott Drummond.
Yeah, and Drummond's got to be even more patient on his tires than he was on that last go. I mean, he had that 3 laps advantage. Now he's only going to have a 1 lap advantage over Merrick Watchhorn. And if he keeps at this pace, should be there on Merrick Watchhorn's tailpipes in just about 15 to 16 laps, which isn't going to be given much space. It's only going to be about 9 to 8 laps to really try to go for a push here, as it's a second and a half the difference between second and third place, which should be our leaders once we see the 27 into pit road, if they decide to come into pit road, as other battles that are going to be going on. Also the battle for 4th place starting to shrink in. Patrick Hernandez in a position where he really cannot lose any more positions. This 19 hasn't gotten to victory lane at all this season. It's just been that of patience, consistency, and now he's going to be pressured here by the 9 of that of Elkins.
And that will be some very real pressure. Elliott Drummond currently closing. On that last lap, he closed by almost exactly a 10th on Merrick Watchhorn. So Merrick's pacing himself. Drummond is charging. Merrick's banking on catching that 27. He's banking on having the lead come to him, which it should, with a considerable tire advantage.
22 laps to go for the drivers here tonight, as the battling you're seeing right now for 4th place. Patrick Hernandez as well as the 9 of Jacob Elkins going to be on top of one another, and this is as well a 1 lap difference. It's going to be Elkins with that 1 lap advantage, but it just seems like Patrick Hernandez really pushing the 19 as far as he can go, trying to figure out how to pull away from the 9. It's just not working, getting very loose off the exit of turn 4 these last couple of go-arounds. He's got to make sure that he can hold on this time around, but just seems like the exit of the corner, the 19 is just not feeling comfortable, really has to back out, and that's where he's losing the speed.
And I think we just could be seeing a classic case of target fixation and overdriving. Patrick Hernandez, he sees the gap ahead. He wants to close it down, but I just don't think I think he might be trying to close it down too much, too fast, and that's a easy way to put a hurting on that right front tire. As Merrick Watchhorn was almost a little over half a tenth faster than Elliott Drummond last time around. So,
well, this is the interesting thing, Robert. This happened during the first stint as well. I mean, after that first green flag pit stop, Elliott Drummond was gaining, and then it stalled out for about 2 to 3 laps, and then Watchhorn was slightly faster, and then this huge charge from Drummond out of nowhere kicked in. I think the 29 trying to do a very similar thing here. Got to watch out. Does Drummond have the faster laps these next 4 laps to try to close in that gap?
Well, with 19 laps remaining, 1.4 seconds gap to make up, and an overtake to be made against a driver who you know is not just going to pull over and let you by. I don't think Drummond has any time to waste. You can't afford to nuke your truck and nuke the tires while getting up to that leader, but you also can't afford to just let him ride around a second and a half ahead in your relative, as Watchhorn extends the gap again.
And over the radio, 27 of Nicholas, I think he's reporting into pit road, expecting these next couple of laps, which should be putting Merrick Watchhorn back into the provisional lead. And the 27 is making that indication into pit road is going to be that of Nicholas. And Monticelli certainly did his best to try to stay up front and try a little bit of a gutsy strategy. You needed a caution to come out. It has not come out. And now Merrick Watchhorn to the lead. Drummond in second. And the rest of the field flies on by as the 27 finally gets into his box. And the charge for the lead, it's on. It's less than a second and a half. As well as it's down to 17 laps to go. But right now, Drummond, he is not gaining fast enough if he's even going to catch up to the back bumper of this 91.
No, he's not. On that last lap, he only ate a 10th out of that lead. And on the running 10 lap average, Merrick Watchhorn's still a 10th faster. So overall, we've seen stellar pace out of this 91 truck tonight, and it's really going to be a tall order for the 29 to run him down and put him behind him.
But for Merrick Watchhorn, how much was he just digging to try to keep that pace at an equal footing for himself, and how much of it was Elliott Drummond just being patient, letting the race come to him? And also they got to be careful because Nicholas Monticelli going to be one of those drivers that's came into pit road, took 4 tires and fuel, and is actually riding behind our leaders. He could be an influence if he tries to make the pass on our front 2.
And you hate to see that when it happens. You definitely don't want to see lap cars interfere with the outcome of the race. But if you're Nicholas Monticelli and you've been in the lead and you think, maybe, just maybe, if I can stay close enough to this leader, if I can get my lap back on him the hard way, then if, say, we have a late race caution, things go better for me. I get better track position on the restart. There's a lot that goes through your head when you're a lap car that has been competitive throughout the race.
Speaking of competitive, this battle for third, Patrick Hernandez, Jacob Elkins, almost taking each other out there through 3 and 4. And it's Hernandez once again holding off the 9. He did the same exact thing during our first stint after our first green flag pit stop. And once again, after our second green flag pit stop, Hernandez holding off the hard-charging number 9 of Elkins. And Elkins, he just cannot get by our biggest mover over the day, that of Patrick Hernandez, up 4 positions from where he qualified. And right now, this 9 has to be feeling some type of frustration, knowing that he's had 3 or 4 different opportunities to get by Hernandez, and Hernandez has held off every single moment.
Well, if you're Patrick Hernandez, that position matters. That position's worth a lot of points. Currently, you're the points leader, but you're also sitting there watching your biggest rival lead the race currently in Merrick Watchorn. So you want to finish as close to that guy as you can. Darn right you don't want to give up P3.
Don't want to give up any more positions, as that is the gap between first and second in points for that of Patrick Hernandez and Merrick Watchorn. Just 1 point was the difference coming into the night. And if we see that of Merrick Watchorn get the lead, that gap grows by up to 6 points, which actually would be 5 points, the difference between Hernandez and Merrick Watchorn, with Watchorn taking over that lead position in points. But if Hernandez finishes in third and Merrick Watchorn falls to second, those drivers will be tied in points after leaving here tonight. And for Patrick Hernandez, he wants to see Drummond close in this gap. It's less than a second with 11 laps to go, but Merrick Watchorn, he is hoping lap traffic becomes a little bit easier moving forward as this battle for third still rages on.
It's a pretty crazy phenomenon. Lap traffic usually, at this point, they usually let the leader by because everyone knows you don't race the leader if you're already a lap down. But usually they fight second place a little harder. Looks like Elliott Drummond's going to have a pretty decent time getting past Calhoun. But on that last lap, Elliott Drummond with a 32.529, Merrick Watchorn with a 32.429. Exactly a tenth pulled in by Elliott Drummond.
But here's the thing, Merrick Watchorn, he's got a cluster of lap cars in front of him, some battling for position, others just trying to get on by, and this is a worst case scenario for the 91 and could be a blessing for that of Drummond. Right into the racing lane, it's going to be the 37. Ridge has to move up, but that's already a real battle there. Drummond now going to be closing in. If we see the 37 get out of the way, this is perfect for Drummond.
It certainly is. Every now and then lap traffic really helps you out, and it acts as kind of a pick to help you catch the leader. But if you're Merrick Watchorn, it also gives you a draft to be able to run down the straightaway and hopefully negate the draft advantage of the 29 who's following him. Now, hopefully Watchorn has an easier time picking through the rest of this lap traffic.
Well, that's what you hope for, but the next couple of drivers are for position, and they are not looking like they are willing to just get out of the way and just move on. Where that Merrick Watchorn once again dives down into the racing line, and lap traffic holds. That's giving dirty air to the 91, and as well giving plenty of space for Drummond, who's just been sitting practicing on this dirty air run, and he's closed it in. It's less than 7/10 with 7 laps to go. The math isn't looking good for Drummond to get close enough and then make the pass, but Robert, it's certainly, with lap traffic now being side by side, this is a good opportunity for the 29 in turn 3.
It is, and it looks like Watchorn's going to thread the middle. What an aggressive, audacious move by our leader, but that's what you got to do if you're going to keep that fast 29 behind you.
And that's the only way. He had a good opportunity. Now Drummond is going to be stuck in a position where he's going to have to just make the pass one by one, potentially, unless they split like they saw for Watchorn. They don't. Defensive line is going to be by that of the 66, holding off that of Drummond, and Drummond now moves up, and the frustration is mounting over the radio. Little bit of anger from the 29.
And it's understandable. I mean, you've had a positive delta on this leader that you're chasing down. You feel like you got a chance to get by him if you get up there, and lap traffic just not letting it happen. Now, despite that, Watchorn with a 32.2 on this last lap. Drummond with a 32.3. So Watchorn extends the gap just a little.
A little bit, and 5 laps to go here at the Nashville Super Speedway 125. Thank you for joining us here on the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is that of Robert Anderson, with Matt Dyer running production in the background. It's been a blast to watch. It's been the duel, and it's Merrick Watchorn up front, coming into 4 laps to go, and that of Elliott Drummond just that of a little bit under 0.8 back from our leader, but lap traffic continues to be the buffer between the 91 and the 29.
It does, and I think this is going to be a huge factor in Lance Drummond can get by the number 10 of Brendan Carroll. He definitely wants to see that 91 in his windshield again, and the lap traffic is just not making it easy on him. I've been in Elliott's shoes, and I've also been in Merrick's shoes, and if you're in the 29 shoes, you're frustrated. You're just angry. I mean, gosh, I ran this guy down from almost 2 seconds back. I have every right to be up there racing him. But if you're Merrick Watchorn, you have the exact same feeling, but for the opposite reason. Oh gosh, this guy's run me down from almost 2 seconds back. Boy, am I glad that lap car's there.
Yeah, and you know, for Merrick Watchorn, he's loving this, and he is so happy to see it as going through turns 3 and 4. The next driver in line is going to be the 3. Joey Hickok, who's going to be the next driver to go a lap down, potentially leaving us with just 7 by the end of the night. 2 laps to go here at the Nashville Super Speedway 125, and there's a couple of drivers of note that have had some great mental fortification to continue racing as strong as they could. Ryan Hyatt, as well as Ryan Mitchell, the Ryans had such a struggle for themselves, caught up with making contact with one another back on lap 15. They fell all the way back to 12th and 13th position. Both have climbed up to 5th and 6th place. Great run for themselves as we're here coming up to the white flag for that of Merrick Watchorn across the line. White flag is going to be in the air for that of the Watchorn machine.
And Patrick Hernandez in the 3rd position currently. He's done everything he can to make sure he has a solid points night. It's not the night he wanted, but the pace of the 29 and 91 has just been inevitable and insurmountable all night. Those 2 trucks have just truly been the class of the field, putting on a Nashville clinic.
Well, Merrick Watchorn, the struggles from last week and the glory here this week. The pitch strategy works out for the 91, and win number 5 of the season goes to the 91 of Merrick Watchorn here at the Nashville Super Speedway 125. Congratulations, and the driver that came in 2nd in the points, he'll leave here in Nashville, our points leader by 5 points. Congratulations to Watchorn, but Robert, what a run by this 91 machine.
He absolutely did everything he needed to do. Now, we talked about execution at Indianapolis last week, and that's perhaps where Merritt gave one away. Tonight at Nashville, he absolutely nailed it. And truly, you can say this race was won on pit road.
All the different strategies, it was Merrick Watchorn always trying to go with the undercut. He went with the extreme one on his first pit stop, and then the second go around found that sweet spot, found the Goldilocks where it was just right in the middle. Some drivers came in sooner. He came in at the middle, and then it was Drummond trying to be chasing all throughout this time. I think the question for Drummond is maybe if he had stayed out for an extra lap, had that tire advantage, maybe then he could have caught up to Merrick, but it was just too big of an advantage to the 91. One of our biggest movers, tied for the 2nd biggest mover of the day, is going to be Merrick Watchorn. Started 4th, up to 1st. As he's burning it down, we'll step aside for a quick moment. We'll grab our top 3. We'll give ourselves an interview, and then we'll be back for the post-race show here on the Blitz Racing Network. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Blitz Racing Network. We've got our third place finisher, Patrick Hernandez, up in the booth. Patrick, a strong run for yourself. Started in 7th, moved up to 3rd, our biggest mover of the night. Congratulations on that. But, man, how was the night from your point of view here at Nashville?
Man, considering that I'm really bad at this track, man, third spot for me, man, is gold. Considering that we didn't have the speed on practice, then we didn't have the speed on qualifying. Man, this is like a win for me, you know. Man, it was a really difficult track, you know, especially in the first couple laps. The truck was so loose from time to time. I was drifting out of four, but man, I managed to put everything together and get another third spot finish.
Now, Patrick, you came into this race with the points lead. Not quite a win. Merrick Watchhorn probably gained on you a little bit, but how are you feeling about your performance from a points perspective tonight?
Man, consistency has been my biggest weapon. You know, I haven't been able to get it done to get a win, but I've been putting so much consistent finishes that has put me in a second spot with a comfortable lead. Well, I entered the race on first spot, but after this, I'm P second no matter what. So I built an very comfortable cushion over third spot thanks to the consistency. So uh, I've been focused on if I can't get the win, then let's try to save as much points as we can, and consistency has been paying off.
Well, certainly it was here tonight, Patrick, as we're coming up to Auto Club, that of Pocono, and Darlington, our next 3 races. How you feeling about the next 3 races that are coming up?
Uh, they are not my best tracks. Well, Auto Club maybe, but Pocono and Darlington, they are tricky tracks for me. But I'm gonna go right straight to work, you know, so I can have a nice performance there. So I don't know. I don't know, man. The competition is getting so tougher that I can even predict what I'm capable of doing in the next couple races. You know, I can't say that I think I can do a top five because I don't even know that. But I'm gonna work hard, and me and my rest and the rest of my teammates at Slick Racing, we're gonna keep working hard and bring the best finish possible.
Well,
Well,
Patrick,
Pat,
congratulations on it. Oh, sorry. What was that?
I was just going to ask Patrick. So you're feeling good about Auto Club? Is that usually a track? You mentioned that you're not too terribly comfortable with Nashville Super Speedway. Is Auto Club a track where we feel like you can put on a great show and eat into
Uh,
that points lead?
well, man, if the stars align in a perfect way, then I think I can do something happen at Auto Club. But man, catching Merrick and man, he's my teammate, but man, he's on another zip code. I've been trying to do it the entire season, and I haven't been able. So I will try to do the best job possible, and I think from my perspective, I think I can do a nice job next race at Auto Club.
Well, Patrick, it sounds like big picture racing is a strong suit of yours. You've been very consistent lately, and it's showing off with your standings in the championship at the moment. So, look, keep going with that pet championship, partner.
Yeah.
Patrick, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
I don't have nobody watching the race, but I want to say thank you to all my teammates in Sleek Racing. Man, these guys are the best. I improved so much since I arrived at this team earlier on the season, and man, thank you for them to giving me the chance of driving this number 19 Tundra. And thank you to all the admins and all the guys that make this league possible.
That's going to be the 19 machine of Patrick Hernandez coming away with a 3rd place finish here tonight. Congratulations on that, and good luck going into Auto Club next week.
Thank you, guys.
Carol's a roadblock. One got in my way. After that, I didn't have a chance to catch him.
Well, Elliot, we saw you had some great pace on that first run. Merrick got around you on the pit stop. You ran him back down in the second stint, and he got around you on pit road again. That has to be frustrating as a driver.
Second place driver always has an advantage.
Well, Elliot, certainly tonight, I would imagine you're kind of frustrated with the fact that you couldn't get to victory lane, but we got a couple of treks coming up. We got that Vado Club, Pocono, Darlington, any of those looking like you got a good opportunity to go after Merrick here?
Pocono. Then after that's like the Glen, which is coming up, right?
After Darlington, yeah, the Glen's going to be the fourth in 4 races.
Yeah, it's probably my only shot.
Well, Elliot, it's certainly tonight. Strong run. I know you're frustrated, but before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Nothing really. Just frustrating.
All right, we'll let you go there, Elliot. Congratulations on second place run, and good luck going into Auto Club next week.
Thank you.
As we go from disappointment, we go to a driver that's excited and happy to go for another win, his 5th of the season after rebounding after last week. We got Merrick Watchorn up in the booth. Merrick, a strong run. It was pitch strategies that cost you that last go around last week. Well, it got you to victory lane. How you feeling after this one?
Man, I'm just so excited. We finally broke the curse. Ever since I kind of took iRacing somewhat, like serious and actually started like trying to join real leagues and try to win races, I've had like, I've always had 4 wins in a season and in any given season or any given series I ever joined. So for this to be the milestone to finally break that curse and get 5 wins in a season is awesome and amazing. And I just, I just gotta thank the league and my guys, my admin team. We really have focused on, the quality for this league, the setups, everyone coming together to work out the setups together, and it's showing a great product overall.
It really is showing an outstanding product. I mean, we saw some nice quality racecraft again tonight. Um, Sam touched on it when he first brought you in here, but man, last week we saw you have it virtually in the bag until you slid the box at Indianapolis. But it could fairly be said that you won the race tonight on pit road. Both pit cycles, you managed to get ahead of Elliott Drummond. And on the second one, boy, you held him off and in classy fashion. Was that a focus for you coming into this week? I do not want to give this race away in the pits.
Yeah, after what happened between Sam and I, the great thing about everyone in this league is everyone's starting to learn. Everyone's like helping each other out, teach each other, give each other opportunities to, we sit together for 4 hours during a practice session building the setup. So you guys saw us racing tonight. So everyone has some, practice under themselves, getting an understanding of the track, knowing when their brakes are, when they actually have to get the car to push and when not to push and when to save and when not to save. So the level of competitiveness is definitely coming along with that. But I knew when I saw Sam do that to me last week, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try this week because Nashville is one of my one of my favorite tracks. It's one of those tracks that's just pure fun. Like you can have the best race and still you can wreck out and it's still a fun great. It's a great race regardless. But I knew that Elliott was going to be a tough cookie when I qualified 4th, and both my teammates went got the pole and started 3rd. I was just like, all right, well, time to strap down those belt buckles one more time and try to really focus up and try to get this win. So I'm so grateful, so grateful.
Well, Merrick, for you to get this win, I mean, you certainly had to do some gutsy moves. We saw you have to go 3 wide through lap traffic. I mean, what was going through your mind at that point, feeling like you had to make that move?
I knew if I didn't get in front of Brendan, I was gonna get stuck behind him. He and I think he stabilized his tires better because I've been pushing it, trying to get away from Elliott because he was coming. Elliott was coming. I knew he was, but luckily we had a separation of 1 lap on those tires, so we could have evened out and, you know, cleared it out and got everything going and just go crazy on the track. But I knew that once the pitch strategy came in and once the actual race itself got underway, if we went green, I could use some pitch strategy to my advantage and try to get away from Elliott. So it's one of those situations that pitch strategy was the big factor to this race.
Well, Merrick, you finally broke your curse. You got the 5th win that you wanted this season. Congratulations on that. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, I just want to thank my sponsors, Twigi, Innovation in Motion, the Watch Run Innovations Group. It's my parents' company. I'm a corporate officer for them, so gotta thank my parents for sponsoring this league for the Twigi iRacing series as well. I mean, they didn't have to, and we're trying to get this going. I want to thank you guys in the broadcast booth for giving us a great product every week. You guys have really shown and gone out your way to help us out and us helping you, and it's a great opportunity to work in tandem. I want to thank the QSA, Quantum Security Alliance. They jumped on board, part of a partnership between Twiggy and whatnot. CMS Captured Occasion, a buddy of mine who does fantastic photos for wedding and stuff like that. And just honestly, just want to thank my admin team, the guys. Really, everyone coming out and sticking with us and staying strong. Great group of guys, and now we just gotta focus up and try to go out and win a couple more races. Keep this momentum going towards the playoffs. We're close to the playoffs cutoff line, so it's gonna get really hectic, really, real fast.
That it
Patrick,
certainly is.
Patrick
Robert?
Hernandez mentioned that he was rather optimistic headed into next week at Auto Club. How are you feeling about that, Merrick? Do you feel like that's another place you can show in and see if we can break that win record by another one?
It's gonna be tough. I'm not gonna lie about that one for me. With this track in particular, with Auto Club next week, packed racing is gonna be key. You know, you just gotta get your stuff going and just try to get everything, riled up. So it's gonna be pack racing, bumper to bumper. So it's gonna be coming down to who can hold their line and who can stay out of trouble. But just gotta do what you gotta do, and hopefully we can keep it going. Luckily, I already have the setup done, so we're just gonna tweak it, make sure everything is squared away, and hope everyone enjoys it.
Well, Merrick, congratulations on this win and good luck going into Auto Club and the next races that are coming up. And overall, have a good one celebrating this win number 5.
Thanks, guys. Just want to shout out to my girlfriend and all my friends and my boyfriend and my boyfriend Mitchell. He's my boy. He's been helping me build this league together. He's I call him like a work husband at this point because he and I just scream at each other about what we're gonna do for the next season and everything else. Do want to thank my parents, everyone. Do want to thank y'all again, and want to shout out, to my girlfriend. She's a big supporter. So, all right, boys. I'll see y'all next week.
Well, that's going to be the 91 of Merrick Watchorn, winner of the Nashville Super Speedway 125. Congratulations and good luck next week at Auto Club. As we get done with that, we'll take a quick look at our results here, unofficial results on how these drivers finished out here tonight. Merrick Watchorn getting the win for himself with that of Eric Drummond, going to be coming away second place, as well as Patrick Hernandez. Jacob Elkin's going to come in fourth with that of Ryan Hyatt, as well as that of Ryan Mitchell, going to be in sixth. Seventh, going to be that of Nicholas Montesini, as well as that of Joey Hickok, as well as in ninth, going to be Randy Bonamy, and that of Waylon Vining, finishing out your top 10, with Calhoun, Ridge, and Carroll finishing out the rest of our 13 drivers that raced here tonight. But before we are done, Robert, what are some of your final thoughts as we get out of here from Nashville?
I think we saw an outstanding race. I think Nashville Super Speedway once again delivered everything you could want. We had great action on the tracks, a lot of side-by-side action, some three-wide once in a while. Fuel strategy, pit strategy was a big key. This race really had it all, and that's what you get when you've got a quality field of tight competitors racing each other with more or less a fair amount of respect.
It certainly was. Curious on how next week's going to go. We know Sam Roach, he was off on vacation. He should be back racing next week at Auto Club. He's been a threat to go into victory lane. Will John Lynch show up next week to try to stop Merrick Watchorn? He gets his 5th win of the season. He'll go for number 6 next week. But for tonight, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Robert Anderson, well, thank you for joining us here at the Blitz Racing Network. More Twigi iRacing series next week for race number 11. It's going to be Auto Club for these drivers, and we cannot wait to see how that one's going to go. We'll see you then. Have a good one here tonight.